our real world experience with the team. So thank you once again. So let me share my screen quickly. Okay, so we'll start with, so this session will have multiple, um, okay, so let me know once my screen is up.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you for the confirmation. Yeah, so the session is divided into two parts. So we'll go through the PPT first. I'll walk you through what this demo is covering, and then we'll go to the actual demo. So from prompt to the production. Nowadays, I mean, we are hearing from the all the engineers or even the sessions that we are attending so far. It's about how we can create the agentic flow in software development or SDLC process or serving the needs of the softwares and basically integrating with the softwares and applications. But now, I think in DevOps side or infrastructure side, we are also building the agents who automate the infrastructure, not only deploying or creating the infrastructure, it's also configuring automatically based on the user prompts. So I'll go to the next slide. About me, my name is Santosh Mahale. I'm working as a AVP DevOps in infrastructure engineering. And I mainly worked, I have total 12 years experience mainly in fintech companies and working with leadership to driving the automations. So I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so what we will be covering as part of this session, this is the agenda. So first we enter in agentic AI from chat to action, how it will perform or all the stages covered in that flow. Then what is the tools under the hood? So what is the architecture flow? What types of tools that is covering in this demo? And then we'll have a live demo. Then we'll also meet the Ansible AI agent. So this is the GitHub repository where all the codes is there. I'll share this repository at the end of the session. Then also we'll go through the flow. So how we provide the prompts and in text in the actions. Okay, then again, the last will be a lesson and whatever we experience so far during this implementation. So we'll go through that. Okay, next is enter agentic AI. It's not a chatbot. I mean, chatbot is now it's old now. Now we are moving to the agentic AI and agentic era. So here we give a prompts, in a plain English, and once we give the prompts, for example, I want to build a server. I want to build a container. I want to build a servers, but with deploying the preloaded applications and even post applications, I want to do a certain configuration on the servers. So how we can do in a single prompt. So we'll go into deep and dive in the next slides. So here we'll be giving the prompts like creating or deploying the infrastructure, containers, and creating the your own configuration. Then the next flow will be a reason. So here we have LLM included. The LLM checks the all the prerequisites and also it checks the prompts. Also, it checks the availability of the ports and servers, and then it also creates the playbooks. Playbooks is Ansible playbook. You might be aware about the Ansible configuration management tool. It writes on the fly and it executes. Then we have act. It's actually executional. Here we execute the flow, entire flow once we have complete information and build the containers and deploy the applications and run the configuration on top of it. Then also in this flow, we do a certain validation. So whether the application is properly deployed, if not, then what is the issues? It will print all the error messages in detail. If not, if it is deployed, if verified, it will give a successful message. So this is the agentic flow in the infrastructure and configuration that we built so far. Now, the main project, this is the Ansible AI project. It's already hosted on GitHub. And this is something here we have multiple things that we are doing under this part. So here we have a prompt where we will just give a single prompt and not any human touch for creating the playbooks behind the scene. It will create the playbooks, it will create the inventory, Docker containers, and everything on the fly based on the prompts. Then we have self-provisioning, which picks the port, available ports, because in Dockers, if you are dealing with multiple containers, we have to have the knowledge about the ports and all the containers. Then it's to a self-verification post deployment. So that will be covering. So in this, what we are doing is we are using Python, where our main agent is hosted. And then for this demo, I'm using Open Router. So Open Router, I think you might be already, or almost everyone might know about the Open Router. So we are using LLM as a DeepSeek chart. For this demo purpose, I'm using Open Router. Behind the scene, any LLM can be used as replacing this one. Then we will have the Ansible configuration playbooks, which will be created on demand on client for every separately for every use cases. Then you have Docker for target containers, and then Rich for live terminal output. So it will print very nice output during the flow. So that is the current flow. Now, what is under the hood? So as I explained in the last screen itself, so these are the 6 moving pieces in one pipeline, and the flow will be moving around this. So first of all, the agent.py file written, and agent.py is our brain of our all the automations. That's treated, or that will work as a orchestration, or that will work as a manager or controller in this flow. Then we have DeepSeek API pulled using the Open Router, and then we have Ansible, then Ansible for executing the custom configuration. So during the prompt, we'll try some custom configuration, and let's see how it's building along with your spinning up the infrastructure. Then Docker for containerization, and then Rich will give a nice output during the flow, and then the verification. So, any questions so far, or shall I move to the next screen? Okay, so I'll take this as a no, and I'll moving forward about the architecture. So this is how the current architecture looks like. So operator is nothing but the user who will give the prompt in a plain English. Like for example, spin up the 3 Docker container, deploy my Nginx application, configure NFS on that servers, and also host some default pages, or pull that default pages or your website posted somewhere in your version control tool, pull it and deploy it. So this kind of prompts that will be support from the initial stage, and then it will call the so we'll be calling the agent.py. So this file is having, it's doing the all control all the stages. It has written all the stages what needs to be done as part of this exactly flow. So it will call the open router, get the APIs response from the LLM, and then execute in Docker containers and do a verification. So this is how the complete architecture will looks like. But this is for the demo. But actually, how it will be in an actual real world scenario. So, for example, you are working in enterprise, so you will not have direct access to agent or any model. So you will have maybe a nice UI where you will give a prompt and it will run the all the flow. So similarly, we have there is a nice UI which again it's agent in the backend, where user will come and user will just drop drag and drop required things. For example, I want a container image, maybe a Ubuntu container image, or if it is a nginx, or it may be any CentOS. What would be my base in organization? Mostly the base image controlled by the cloud ops team. So those image we will pull it. Then after that, we will have another drag and drop for application. So what application that I need to build on top of this Docker container? Then I'll drag the applications like Nginx, for example, NFS, for example, DSF, ADNS. I'm just giving example. So there is a number of application which gets deployed on demand while spinning up the container. And then normally once user fill this information and submit it, it generates a prompt. That prompt eventually will get to this agent, and then agent will perform the next action. So it's passing information from agent to agent. That's how it's normally happens in the real world scenario. So now for demo purpose, I'll give a plain prompt in this operator, and then we'll see how it is taking the prompt and executing the actions. Okay. So I'll move to the next. So now what we are doing is, so let's first understand. So here the concept here is, earlier, I mean, in before this LLM model or agents come in picture, we used to raise the request to spin up the infrastructure. Once the infrastructure has spin up, then we used to run our CI/CD pipelines to deploy our applications. Then we used to run the configuration management tool to configure our applications, and then that application gets live. So that was the existing flow that at least we were following as part of our DevOps optimization or DevOps automations. But now that is significantly reduced by implementing this flow. So this is still using LLM model. I mean, this is years back that we deployed and still using the old LLM models, but we'll be moving forward to scales, because maybe I'll walk through the code as well, and how this prompt library has built and how this agent has been built. So I'll go through the code level as well. But slowly we are moving, and we are already in transition to scales and cloud code APIs. Okay, so this is the flow. It understand first what is the request. For example, if I want to build a number of servers, Docker containers, it takes or understand the output or maybe the inputs received and the prompt. Then it provisions, by checking all the free ports, clean up, the containers if it is in down stage or not running stage, and then run the or check the SSH, and then boot fresh Docker containers. So again, it generates the playbooks. So now doing the certain configuration, because there's no, I mean, every application is having the same configuration. Every application has a separate configuration. So on top of that, if you want to build a specific playbooks and configurations, that will be written on demand during the execution. Now, then after that, it executes and verify all the flow. After deployment, it will also return the links to access our containers. So now let's dive into demo. So let me share my another screen. Um, is my another screen is visible, or I think I need to stop and start again.
We can see the presentation only.
Okay. Okay. So let me quickly share my another screen. Okay. Now, let me show you the first the code, and then I eventually will execute the code as well. So here, this is my entire repository, and in this repository, I have agent.py is main controller, and then we have a Docker file, and then we have a executor.py, and then prompt template where we have specifically for our infrastructure, we have mentioned certain prompts. Okay, what should we do and what should not be do, and when we have a prompt, what what it translate to and needs to be run the plan. So first is agent py. So let me just open this file. Now this file is having all the information. First, whenever we execute this file, it calls the all the stages. It runs all the stages. First, it's configured about the your API keys to connect the LLM and what models that we need to pass. Again, we have a playbook where my playbook should be created in the output and playbooks, and then inventory.ini file. This is, I mean, where I need to put this inventory.ini file. Inventory.ini file is will be a configuration. This file will be created on demand. This file will be a the information about generated containers and to run our configuration management on this inventory file. Then we have ports defined, and that will be used while generating the ports. Now we have certain dev functions here created, print a clean statement, errors and rerun the new time. So what I'll do is, this is the definition, I mean, dev function we use for certain define certain functions here, and then we'll call in the eventually in the main. So now if you see there are defined functions here, but I go to the main where we are executing those functions, and then we'll start from that. Okay, so now I'm just going fast to that. Okay, so this is the main area where we start our calling our functions. So, and I also mentioned the stages here. So whenever we start, right, what stages it will be performed, or what steps that we need to uh, include in this. So now we have first stage where we will detect the target servers. So now whenever we give the prompts, for example, I want to spin up the 10 servers, 2 servers. So how will know, okay, how many servers? So it detects the target servers first, you're using the numeric value. And then it select the available ports. So now we already have a ports defined, and from that port, it will check the available ports. There might be cases where your port will be already in use. So it will just check the available ports. Then cleaning up the existing container. So I mean, I added is only for during the demo, but there is a use case in production where your containers are no longer running, and it's still there for years or months. So then you can, explicitly run this cleanup function, which will just, clean up those existing containers, which will just free up your ports and API addresses. So that is something is specifically your use cases. Then it will provision the servers. It will create the containers. So once it is created, it will wait for getting the SSS access to that container. Because why we need SSS access? We want to generate, or we are generating the playbooks, and we are executing the configuration through Ansible, and Ansible talks to containers using the SSH. So that's the reason we need a SSH. Then it generates a dynamic inventory. So what is dynamic inventory? Once the containers are generated, we need to connect to them. But how? We need to get their IP addresses, and we need to basically update our inventory file with those server details. And this will be done on fly and on demand. Now, after that, it will generate the playbooks. So what is the use of playbooks? As I mentioned, if your application required certain configuration, post it is, post we spin up our infrastructure. So there are a lot of use cases where you have a custom use cases, and your application required certain configuration post, even if it is implemented. And that is where the Ansible comes in a picture. Then it executes the playbook. Once it is generated, it executes the playbooks on the all the containers. And then our flow ends. So these are the complete things that will be done in this PY file. So this is the agent file. We are slowly transitioning to scales and using the latest LLM models, but this is how it's deployed a year back. Now we have a Docker file. This Docker file will be used. Maybe I'll add this Docker file and we'll see. This Docker file is having the all the configuration related to your base image, which base image we need to select, and those configuration will be part of this file. So on top of that, we required the configuration related to specific that will be run through a Ansible. Then we have an executor. Executor is something, it will give a nice prompt. So, or it will give a nice or stream the output while we are running this explicitly. Where I mention about, how I return, what should be the color and all this. If it is an error, if it is successful, that will be a part of this executor.py. And then I want to tell or explain this prompt template. This prompt template is nothing but the instructions or rules that is defined around this flow. So that will be later converted in the skills and all those details. But these are the some instructions or rules that we'll be providing by default, and these rules will be configurable and it will be changed by every environment or every specific application use cases. But this is for the R use cases, and it is mentioned in the prompt dot in the template file. So this will be treated as a important file as it will read those during the execution. Now you will not see inventory.ini file here, or maybe the playbook file in the output folder. So but it will get created after we execute the prompt. So now, yeah, any questions so far on this architecture or the tools that we are using so far?
Santosh, I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us say if any new capabilities need to add, then I
Mhm.
need to update into that agent.py, right? And
Right.
accordingly on other files, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is something is it's always a configurable, and we can do a version control for that by sitting in any version control tool, and you can release the or add the new configuration whenever you have a new application release or new requirements.
Understand. Understand. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now let's start the play. I have Python 3 and Python both. So let me run on Python and let's see. And then I have agent.py. So once I start this agent, it will first, it will take the user input. Okay. Behind the scene, or maybe in the real world scenario, this will get passed. So as I mentioned earlier in the enterprise infrastructure, what you will do is you will get the nice UI and just to enter the prompts or just drag and drop what your application required so far, and then it will convert in the prompt and then it will be passed to this. For now, let me pass the prompt correctly because we, for a demonstrative purpose, we have the actual flow created instead of just generating another prompts using the UI. Now let me tell this agent to install and start nginx on three target servers. Deploy. I'll try to deploy some default pages as well. Let's see. Deploy default page content. So it's AI. Okay, so let me hit it. Okay, so as our agent.py it's having all the steps defined in it. Step one, step two, as I mentioned. So it will start first, detecting the servers. Okay, how many servers that I'm passing? These are three servers. So it will say, okay, target servers are three. Then, okay, so this is generating, so it's going down. But let me explain this. Okay, let's complete this and explain, or maybe I'll start one. So step one, just detecting the servers. Okay, so let's for a moment. Step two will be, checking the available ports. Now, this is how we are checking the available ports because it will check in the existing infrastructure and gets the available ports. How it is doing is it's the output is written in the proper in these steps, and it's using executed PY file to report this in the colors and nice, and also it gives the duration of each step, how much time it is taking. Then step three, it's cleaning up. So this is, as I mentioned, it's up to you if you want to keep it. This will just clean up the non-execute or maybe stop containers from the pay. Then it will provision the three containers. Now, as I mentioned, just spin up the three container. If you see, these are the containers it's spinning up, and the target, okay, Ansible target 1, target 2, target 3. These are the three servers it is spinning, and its status is also showing up. After that, it's waiting for SSH to ready. So once you start your container, SSH will be ready in a few seconds. So it will wait for that, and it will give the prompt. It will report that once it is ready. Post that, it's generating the dynamic inventory. Dynamic inventory, as I mentioned, it's required for uh, doing the actions or performing the action on those three new servers via Ansible. After that, it generates the Ansible playbook via AI. This is on-demand playbook. It generates, and this will be changing based on your prompts. If you use something different, it will change the your playbook. So this is completely automatic, where you don't need to even write the Ansible playbook to do a configuration. Normally, I know I mean, in my beginning of the career, I worked on the DevOps where we were writing the playbooks, in a day, in couple of days. Now it's on demand, so we don't need to write even playbooks. It will just give the prompt, it will create the playbooks on the backend, and it will provision the infrastructure as well. Now, okay, the flow is completed. It says the success, but I'll walk you through about the, step by steps. So this was the step 7, generating the Ansible playbooks to deploy. In these playbooks, I'm very much familiar with Ansible, so I know the playbook and YAML language. But just to you, I'll explain this one. This playbooks is normally also having the host, on which host I need to trigger this flow. And this host will be a web servers, which will be under the our inventory files. And then we have a task. So in this task, what we need to do is we need to install the Nginx servers, because in the initial prompt, I had mentioned, okay, install the or start Nginx servers. So it will deploy the Nginx packages on that. Then it will handle the packages. If it is a failure or anything, it will run the rescue block. Post that, it will also it will copy that content into the default file. If you see war www, ensure that root directories exist, it will deploy those content in that file, and then it will start the Nginx servers, and it will check whether it is in a started state. That will be a this simple playbook, which might take half day to me create the file, or maybe hours at least, not half day, to create the file and then deploy explicitly post on my containers or my infrastructure as ready to use. So then it's also having the actual step of executing the playbook against all the servers. Now, if you see this is the playbooks which is running on all these three servers. You are seeing 3, that means it's running on all 3 servers. And now it's running also handler to start the service. So what I'll do is I'll quickly check whether my the Docker container which I deployed, or infrastructure that I created, and also the configuration that I ran, whether it is I'm able to get it. So let me quickly check first if I can get it quickly. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm checking on the server 1. Okay, so now this is just a default page. Whenever you hit localhost and your page, right? This is just a page on one server that is deployed. This is the AI agent conference. Okay, so now let me check on other servers as well. So this is how I can check quickly. Okay, I can see the same page is configured. You can also update the prompt, and you can mention, okay, deploy this page on one server and deploy another page on another server. That also can be done. And we have various use cases where we create the containers with multiple applications. So This is, I think, this was deployed in our real production. It really helped us to save our time for spinning up the infrastructure and deploy the application. So let me come back to the PPT. So before that, is there any question on this flow?
Santosh, I
Yes.
understand flow, and it's a very good example that you show how we can use a AI layer uh,
Mhm.
in the infrastructure, you can say. So
Yes.
the the one that in the slide, the router
Mhm.
object, right?
Right.
That is the
Right.
DeepSeek model. So in that steps, I just
Mhm.
need to you need to press or explain more how the router is you can say giving help in this flow actually that
Yes.
I
Yes.
just need
So
to.
maybe I'll just give you more details about the open routers, and that itself will answer your question. So open router is something nowadays you will see a lot of LLM models provides the APIs, right? So you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
use multiple APIs. But if you want to select, for example, DeepSeek provides APIs, even OpenAI. So for example, if you want to use OpenAI APIs, what you do
Mm-hmm.
is you normally go to their site, purchase the plan, and it generates a API key which will use in your LLM models anywhere, right? Or maybe in
Right, right.
your script.
Script, yeah.
Now, for example, now the Claude is providing the APIs. If you want to use Claude LLM now, so what you do is you go to the cloud, purchase the plan, and then you will use their, it will generate the new API key, and then you will integrate in your agent,
Existent.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
That is how you will be doing. But open router, you don't need to change your API key. Your API key will be once, but you can connect to the any LLM model
Mm-hmm.
within the world. So that is the
Okay,
use of open router. Open router is just a mediator which will calls the any API available in the market.
okay, okay.
Okay,
And
with the
that
same
we
key.
can, and in this case, in this example, we have set, right, which LLM we need to
Yes.
call. Okay.
Correct, correct. We mentioned that model in our agent.py, which model I need to call. So we have
Hmm.
explicitly mentioned DeepSeek Chart V3. This is the model that I need to call.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Understand.
Is that answers your question?
Yeah, yeah. Got it.
Okay, perfect. So now let me go to the uh, our end slide. Now I think we completed the demo for this, and now so I think during this we during the initial phase we taught lot of things from this lesson. I mean, and I would like to share this with you. So whenever you work in this scenarios, you will have the information. In this, normally selecting the right LLM is very much important because initially we tried with multiple models. Currently, we are using OpenAI, but we will be moving to a cloud very soon. But initially, we tried with some other APIs, and we faced some challenges there because it was not writing the playbooks in the right format, or it was not doing the configuration, creating the containers, writing the on-demand Docker files, and all those files was not as efficient. So try whenever tried multiple LLM models, and then only check how the best one it suits in your use cases. That is one thing. And then again, if you are running the containers or any infrastructure, if you are using Ansible, check SSH known host conflict. So because there are multiple cases where the SSH might be available because you do a cleanup every time. So once you clean up, it should also clean up the SSH known conflicts from the relevant files. Then AI over installing packages. So check if any packages, for example, there are use cases where we observe initially it was taking maybe a 30 minutes to complete the flow. Why it was taking? Because it was trying to install certain packages which it's used to download on demand from the external repositories. So what we did is, I mean, we hosted those packages library in-house, and then we call those packages during the our play. So that reduced significantly time. Now it's maybe a 5 minutes. Within the 5 minutes, it downloads and install all the packages. So that is the additional learnings that I think we had. Then again, it's a small fixes if we are giving the wrong web root path or maybe handlers to during the configuration. that may goes wrong initially, and that will be a really the key roles that we need to validate first before even moving to this architecture. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, choosing your right model is it's very much important. And also, one thing I would like to highlight, it's guardrails. Uh, Nowadays, we really need to specifically mention to the agents what should not do, because if you don't restrict them or you don't pass the guardrails, it will go anywhere, and it will be a really every time it's an hallucination.
Hello, Santosh.
I think it's a network problem at his end.
Yeah, let's give him a couple of minutes
Yeah.
more.
I'm audible now? Thanks.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, sorry, there was a network disturbance due to the
Yeah, no
electricity,
problem.
but yeah. So now I think we are into the slide, and we shared the learnings as well, whatever the learnings that we did so far. And the next our goal is, is deploying this in multi-cloud environment. Will be also not only one cloud, but we can also give the which cloud that we want to spin up our environment or our infrastructure, and that will be calling the relevant KMCPs and connecting to the multi-cloud environment. That is the next things that we'll be doing. And then again, moving to a skill from the hard-coded prompts. That is the next things that we'll be doing as part of this roadmap. Okay, that's takes me to the end. Any questions or anything that you have, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn or here in the chat. I would have to have to answer.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you so much,
everyone.
Santosh. Thank you so much, Santosh, for the wonderful presentation. We really enjoyed your session and we learned a lot. Yeah, thank you. Is anyone is
Thank you
having
so
any
much.
query?